All right, hello everybody. Welcome to Q&A live stream number 99. It is approximately 6:32 p.m. right here on the East Coast in the great states of New Jersey. Today is Monday, January 11th, 2021, and we do have some stuff to talk about this week. So, we're going to get started here in a little bit, and we're going to discuss some new topics to go over for this week. So, oh, great. Okay. Hey, Texas Elevators, how are you? Hello, Mohammed Sonic Boom, how are you? Hey, Joseph, how are you, man? So, how is everyone doing? Hi, CJ, how are you? So, anyway, let's get right to some stuff. So, first of all, over the weekend, I went to the Westchester and the Galleria at White Plains. Um, So those final rides have been filmed. I was even able to do Lord and Taylor in Scarsdale and Bloomingdale's in White Plains. So we have a bunch of final rides that will be going up in the next couple of weeks. So that's very exciting. Also, we do know the list of Macy's stores that are closing. White Plains, unfortunately, being one of them. So the Galleria at White Plains in White Plains, New York, is now in some serious trouble of becoming a dead mall. So unfortunately, that mall is losing Sears by the end of this month on Sunday, January 24th, 2021. And the Macy's store is expected to close at the mall by the end of the first quarter, which is April 30th of 2021. So another thing to talk about that has happened this week is Staples potentially acquiring Office Depot and Office Max. And personally, at this point, it just makes sense for those two to merge. I mean, there's no point to keep them as two chains. You're better off just merging it all together. And plus, Office Depot and Office Max really don't have a presence up here, at least. I think of the central area and south area, they have a presence, but Staples is better off just buying them at this point. Even Staples is not that packed, but somehow Staples is considered an essential retailer, considering it has essential office supplies that people need to work remotely. Okay, that's great. That's good news about the vaccine. Pretty good, Scorch. How are you? So, oh, they did? Oh, wow. I'm sure there was a Staples nearby. Hi, Joe. How are you, man? But yeah, Macy's did release the list of locations that are closing. So, White Plains, I kind of knew. Well, that would make sense. They probably offered the company, the property owners, an offer they couldn't resist. But here's the thing with Macy's closing in White Plains, and I was there just this past Saturday. I started seeing them section off parts of the stores and gathering some of the merchandise together to get ready to physically liquidate the store. And it just made sense. And that Macy's in White Plains, I'm sorry to say, but that had such a dated decor from Abraham S. Joust. Unique, but not a good fit for Macy's in today's modern society. Plus, it's not one of Macy's growth locations going forward. So, yeah, Water Tower Place, but there's a Macy's down the road, so that's market correction, personally. Oh, yeah, wow. Yeah, none in Pennsylvania. New York, New Hartford at Sangertown Square, and then the White Plains Galleria. But Okay, well, any school would do that. But unfortunately, we just have to wait till the vaccine is ready for the general public. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Yeah, I read it this morning. They want to merge with Staples for a $2.1 billion deal. Yeah, that is quite surprising that Macy's isn't closing a store in Pennsylvania. That's quite a shocker. They must have gotten rid of all the non-growth stores last year. Harrisburg certainly not being one of them. Well, getting a COVID test is not a bad thing. My school is remote till March 1st. Makes sense. Did you expect White Plains to close? Yes. See, the problem with the White Plains store is over the Tappan Zee Bridge, or AKA the Mario M. Cuomo Bridge. You have the Macy's store at the Palisade Center. You got the Macy's store across county. You got the Macy's store at Sanford, Connecticut. And for anybody living up in the northern part of Westchester County, you got the Macy's store at Jefferson Valley Mall. So the problem is there was too many other Macy's stores nearby. Palisades being one of them, Cross County, Stanford, and apparently Jefferson Valley. So those were better performing stores for Macy's. It still surprises me that they kept Stanford, but White Plains Gallery of White Plains was in a much tougher position than say Stanford Town Center. Although Stanford Town Center, ever since the Sono collection opened up, that has certainly gone downhill as well. But that mall's in a little bit of better shape than say the mall near than say yeah, I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, than say the Gallery of White Plains. Because the Gallery of White Plains, you got City Center, you got Cross County, you got Ridge Hill, which Ridge Hill's actually kind of struggling now too. They're losing two tenants. Lord and Taylor's already gone at Ridge Hill, and REI is expected to close February 11th. You got the Westchester, which is a pretty big mall, which is a pretty big deal in Westchester County. Yes, I heard about Family Video. They're closing for good. Mm. That I bet is going to get extended depending on the vaccine rollout. Okay. Since my birthday's on the Super Bowl. That's cool, I guess. Yeah, they'll speed it up. Yeah, probably just gonna stay home for the Super Bowl. I'm not like a football fan, but I guess I'll watch it. I expected Sunrise to go too, but Sears hasn't crapped the bed yet, so there's some reason that Macy's wants to keep that store open, although it could be part of next year's closure. Yeah. Well, Urban Edge just got Sunrise. Yeah, the whole website is no longer even Westfield anymore. It's now all that. Not sure yet. I'm hoping between March and June. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing too. Yeah, my college had a joke of a Super Bowl party. So personally, I'm happy to be home for that this year. Yes, definitely for the foreseeable future. I don't see Nordstrom opening up a second door on the island. Honest opinion on Menlo Park. So Menlo Park is a decent mall in New Jersey. It has a Rainforest Cafe. It has the Cheesecake Factory. It has Barnes and Noble. It has a Nordstrom, the only Nordstrom left in serving Middlesex and Monmouth and Mercer County, um, because Monmouth County lost to the Nordstrom at Freehold. So yeah, that's why it's still open. But personally, I don't know why Nordstrom closed Freehold. I still don't get why they did that. That I think that was a very stupid decision. But Menlo Park still has a Nordstrom, although they downsized the third floor and it's now only on two floors. And it has a Macy's, Rainforest Cafe, like I was saying, Cheesecake Factory, Barnes and Noble, Apple Store. So it has some pretty good tenants. It's almost like a smaller version of Roosevelt Field. Same people that own Roosevelt Field own Menlo Park. I mean, I'm just optimistic about the vaccine, at least. It's here. People are going to get vaccinated. That's the end of the story. Yeah, I'll get to that in a minute. Yeah, Menlo Park has a Macy's growth store. That's a growth store, and so is Bridgewater and Short Hills and Willowbrook and Westfield Garden State. Those are all Macy's growth stores. Yes, Boscov's is closing all of their restaurants. That is very devastating. Yeah, it's still very devastating that they're closing all their restaurants at Boscov's. But hopefully they can, reuse the space in a much better way. Hopefully. Would you keep Roosevelt Field as a Simon Wall or Westfield? I don't think Simon's giving up Roosevelt Field. Plus, it's at the economic engine on Long Island, and I'm sure it's one of their most profitable malls in the country. Yeah. Well, I'm sure a lot of people liked the Boscov's restaurants, so I can't imagine it not being a huge loss. Yeah, and putting together this thing called Lord and Taylor Week. What Lord and Taylor Week is going to be, um, it's going to comprise of five different store tours, all during the week, and it's going to comprise of some elevator and escalator videos towards the end of the week. So again, I don't know exactly when Lord and Taylor Week is going to be. I don't know. I would say by Thursday we should know when Lord and Taylor Week is going to be. But it will be an entire week dedicated to Lord and Taylor because all their stores will be closed. So it'll be an entire week just straight up dedicated to Lord and Taylor because it's an iconic American department store chain. The reason I didn't do a Century 21 week is because Century 21 has not been around for 194 years. It's been around for 59s, but I'm very excited to do Lord and Taylor week. We got a bunch of store tours going up, and we're going to start off with the week with some good ones and end the week with some good ones too. So, well, I think they still have a decent food court at Menlo Park. 45 of them are closing, not the entire company. Lord and Taylor, yes, they're going out of business. And they're still liquidating their stores courtesy of Hilco Merchants. What do you think will happen to Lord and Taylor at Westfield South Shore and Walt Whitman Shops? So, Westfield South Shore, that's going to be a tough spot to fill at the mall. I personally don't know what the mall is going to do with that one. So, the problem is back before a month before the pandemic hit, they were starting to lay off workers. So it was inevitable. I mean, in Garden City, Manhasset, this was an entire month before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. They were laying off hundreds of workers at Garden City, Manhasset. There were layoffs at the Burlington Mall store, downtown Westfield, Scarsdale. Look, they were laying off people at Lord and Taylor left and right. It's just the perfect excuse came along, and that's how they got to, or they were able to say the pandemic is what hurt us financially, when really it was just covering up because they were already laying off people a month before the COVID-19 pandemic hit. And personally, I think either way, COVID-19 or not, they would have all the stores would have closed. It just wouldn't have been as delayed. It probably would have what theoretically would have happened if we didn't have COVID-19 restrictions is you would have seen an announcement by April or May of last year, and Lord and Taylor would have closed all their doors by the end of the year. So either way, Lord and Taylor was going away. It's the pandemic created, number one, the perfect excuse, and number two, to delay the end of Lord and Taylor. But as for those two, so Westfield South Shore, they're going to have to get some kind of special tenant in there to take up that spot. I don't know what tenant is going to want to be in there. It's a lot of space to work with. I cannot imagine it's going to be another department store. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that Lord and Taylor. As for Walt Whitman, food court. That mall desperately needs a food court. Just because it has upscale shops doesn't mean it's gonna get people. If Simon really wants to get people into Walt Whitman shops, you put in an upscale food court and you pull what you did at the Westchester and King of have Savior food courts. You do exactly what you did at those two malls. Your Walt Whitman shops will be doing relatively well. I'm sure that number will be sped up in the next couple of weeks. If COVID never happened, then the Nordstrom and Freehold would have been kept in place. Probably if COVID-19 did not happen, Nordstrom and Free right now, Freehold would not be in trouble. Personally, I think that was definitely COVID, because Nordstrom's Rack still does relatively well. That was definitely COVID, sadly. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I 100% agree, because now Westfield can focus on South Shore and focus on trying to make that the premier mall on Long Island. So I think it's good that they sold Sunrise. They needed to, because now they got to work on getting some tenants inside the Lord and Taylor spot in the mall. So now their focus will shift to that. And same thing with Westfield Garden State Plaza. They'll have to work on that too. So what do you think will happen to the empty anchors in Freehold? And do you think Make Eric sells Freehold after COVID ends? Ooh, that's a tough one. It really depends on what other anchors decide to close in the mall. If J.C. Penney pulls the plug, yeah, I could see Make Eric giving up control of Freehold. The thing is, that mall really doesn't have a reason anymore. Nordstrom is gone. Lord and Taylor is going to be gone by either this or next month, depending on if new restrictions are introduced for non-essential retail. And Sears is gone. I mean, not that Sears is a big draw, but still, that's an impact. But Nordstrom, I think, is the biggest impact on that mall, because that was the only one in Monmouth County. Like, that's what put Freehold Raceway Mall on the map, because of a Nordstrom. But I don't know what's going to happen with Freehold Raceway Mall. It's a big question mark for now. Livingston Sears and Rockaway Sears are both going to be COVID-19 vaccination centers, which is a good temporary use. Which honestly, it gives the mall time to figure out what tenants can eventually move into those spots once people are vaccinated from COVID-19. So I think it's a win-win for Simon at Rockaway, at least. For Livingston, I think Simon's going to absolutely dump Livingston. They have no reason to hold on to it whatsoever. And now that they're acquiring Taubman centers, they could just kiss Livingston goodbye. I mean, there's no reason for them to hold on to that mall anymore. And honestly, I'm surprised that Macy's didn't announce that Livingston was going to close. Yes, Target is taking over the former Sears, I believe, on the first two floors, with the third floor having another tenant. So Primark is possible for Yonkers, but probably down the road. Freehold Raceway already has a Primark, but Primark could expand to Smith Haven, I believe. Definitely Roosevelt Field. There's a great spot for them. The second option is Dick's Sporting Goods doing a Field and Stream and making that Dick's Sporting Goods a flagship Dick's Sporting Goods store. But who knows? Is Dick's interested in taking over the whole building? We don't know. We don't know if the footage is Livingston. No, it's not the right mall for them. Willowbrook would be the right mall for Primark, in my opinion. They wouldn't. I don't think they'd want to go to Livingston. It's not the right property for them. It's just not the right area. Willowbrook has enough retail where if you squeezed in a Primark in the former Sears spot, I think it would do relatively well. Hmm. Quite interesting. Yeah, I guess they're trying to do it more. Do you know what that's a vaccine center? Do you know if Sears at least is a vaccine center? Hello, it's the G-Man. How are you? Just looking at stuff. I'm good. Thanks for asking. Well, it depends on where they get a new location. They could really move to Sunrise. That would be a ballsy move. But Broadway Commons, unfortunately, is in a declining neighborhood, and it's unfortunate. But yes, it is a vaccination center, along with the Kmart in West Orange. Both I visited, and both closed in the same year. Except the difference is one closed during the Super Bowl, which was the Kmart, and then the other closed during the height of COVID when we had the first peak. But it's crazy of how many retailers we've lost to the thing. There was an interesting Macy's at a Hyatt Regency in Maui, Hawaii. That's like the tiniest 7,000 square foot Macy's. Just, I don't know. I found that to be very interesting how they could do a 7,000 square foot Macy's store in a hotel. That amazes me. They would turn the lower level of Sears into a vaccination center before they turn the Nordstrom into that. Definitely Sears. If anything's becoming a vaccination center, it would be a former Sears. Yep, Broadway Commons. Have they released a date as when Lord and Taylor will permanently close in the town of Westfield, New Jersey? We do not have a firm date. We should be getting the date, I believe, this week. The first week it was kind of crazy with the new year and stuff, and but we should be getting a date, I believe, this Thursday, because typically on a Thursday we find out when there's a new date. If I get a new date tomorrow, I plan on posting a video talking about the final date for the last 20. But again, I don't have a firm date for that store and the rest of the 20 along with that store that will be closing for the final time, because that will be the date that predicts when I do Lord and Taylor week. So I have all the videos set up and ready to go. It's just the question is, when are they all going to close? Forest Fair Village. No, I have not heard of that place. Hi, Metro Elevators. How are you? No, the you can definitely say goodbye to the Armor, and you can definitely say goodbye to the Schindler. They're not keeping that store that way. There's no way. Plus, with the amount of foot traffic that goes inside of Target, yeah, those elevators are going. They're absolutely 100% going. The Armor from the old John Wanamaker's will go, and the Schindler will definitely go. I do not see those elevators staying. There's no way. There's no reason to keep them. There's just no reason to keep them. No reason at all because they're going to completely gut the entire spot. They're going to mothball the entire um, space, and they're going to reconfigure the entire building. It's going to be interesting what they do. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think there was a Lord and Taylor in Levittown. Manhasset there was one. Scarsdale there was one. Garden City there was one. Yeah, that it's such a shame. Lord and Taylor put a lot of money into making Manhasset look really nice. What a shame, you know? And now it's closed. It's the whole location is now closed. What a shame though. This was a really nice location to visit. But I'm not surprised. I don't think there was a Lord and Taylor in Levittown. They could if they want a bigger store in Manhasset, but they just did a new store in Westbury. Oh, probably one of those Lord and Taylor outlets. Yeah, we had a find it at Lord and Taylor, a failed concept, which closed in Paramus, which meant at the time, yeah, Lord and Taylor loved Paramus. They loved Paramus. I don't know why. So they tried two different concepts in Paramus. They tried Lord and Taylor Furniture near Fashion Center, and then they tried Find It at Lord and Taylor. Both failed miserably. Now, Hudson Bay is to blame for that, unfortunately. Yeah, they put a lot of money into renovating that store, and now it's closing. Like it's just crazy. They liked Manhasset. Lord and Taylor loved Manhasset. They liked Garden City. They loved Scarsdale. That was one of their favorites, and it's a shame that they're not going to be there anymore. They liked Bala Kinwood. They definitely liked Paramus. The Fashion Center one though. What's another one that they really liked? They hated Livingston. They didn't like that one. They hated Rockaway. They hated Monmouth. They dumped it the first chance they could get. Quaker Bridge they liked, surprisingly, but probably because of the area around it's pretty upscale. Freehold was another surprise. I'm surprised they kept that one over Monmouth, but I guess because of Nordstrom. Um, and Westfield was another one of their favorite stores. They loved the store in Westfield because it wasn't like near a mall, it wasn't near a strip mall, it was its own little building. Kind of like what Scarsdale and Manhasset were. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he needs to do Lord and Taylor. If that's one abandoned he needs to do is Lord and Taylor. He needs to do that one badly. Lord and Taylor hated Palisades. Yeah, they weren't a fan of that store. Yep, they're gonna have a Saks Fifth Avenue. So we'll see what that one's like. Yeah, and speaking of Saks Fifth Avenue, if they really want to get into New Jersey again and open up a second door, I think they should open up the one in the former Lord and Taylor store at Bridgewater Commons. The reason I say that is because you already have a Macy's and you already have a Bloomingdale's. You complement the mall with the Saks Fifth Avenue, and the mall gets more exclusive. So, but the question does remain: is there a market for a Saks Fifth Avenue out there? You know, and that's something we don't know. Yep, I'm aware that it has a Taco Bell. I was almost gonna go there today, but I didn't. No reason. The water park is expensive, and all the elevators there are pretty much the same. There's not really much to do there yet. I can't think of any other questions, so we'll keep the stream going for a little bit more. They only had one Lord and Taylor in Ohio, and it later became a Von Mauer. Well, that makes sense. There actually is one Von Mauer, but it's up in like Victor. Like it's very upstate. Yeah, I can't imagine Von Mauer coming to New York City. Yeah, well, hopefully, what's it called? Hopefully the Sacks will do relatively well. I knew the Riverside one had to go. That store was a mistake from day one. Short Hills should not have closed. I think that was the biggest mistake that that mall had. Because think about it, that mall since Saks closed almost 5 years ago has had no other anchor casualties. So clearly, there's a reason for Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, Macy's, and Bloomingdale still being there. But I think Saks leaving that mall was a huge mistake. To favor American Dream, great. So you're going to go favor a mall that's not even a mall. I don't get that. No, I've never been in Western New York. Yep, they are closing two stores in Connecticut, Macy's. Oh, okay. That was a Tallman. That sounds like that was a Tallman mall at one point. Yeah, the off fifth is at the gallery at Westbury Plaza. There was a Saks in Garden City at one point. There was even one out in the East End. Both are gone. Saks Walton being the only full price one. But there are, I think, there's a couple Saks off fifths on Long Island. We have a couple of Saks off fifths up here too. Yep, and then some. I guess someone took it over. So, honest opinion on South Shore, Westfield South Shore. It's an okay mall. Definitely some elements from Westfield Garden State Plaza. That's for sure. But it was built at the same time that Westfield was doing their extension. Simon took it over and never touched it. That's interesting because they've touched Woodfield Mall before. Um, it was a decent mall when I went. It wasn't. It certainly wasn't my favorite. No, the only good thing within that mall is probably the J.C. Penney. Sears is okay. Macy's is really nothing special. I didn't even waste my time there. Um, it's an okay mall, but I mean, Westfield Garden State Plaza versus Westfield South Shore. I mean, you can't even compare those two. You can't even compare those two. Yeah, I mean, Westfield Garden State, you got Macy's, you got Neiman Marcus, Nordstrom, and a liquidating Lord and Taylor, and a food court, and AMC. There's just more choices there. Westfield South Shore, you got a Macy's, you have a J.C. Penney, and a Dick's Sporting Goods. So yeah, I could compare that mall. I could compare Westfield Garden State to say something Roosevelt Field, Westfield South Shore. I would compare it to possibly a step up from Ocean County Mall. Hi, Chris. Guess where I'm heading out next weekend? Not sure yet. What day is Lord and Taylor closing in Paramus? I don't know yet. Like I said, I don't have that information right now. Once I get the information on that firm final day, I will make sure to share that with you guys. I think they still would have kept South Shore, but they probably would have sold it to a different owner at the time. They probably wouldn't have also if Westfield Long Island Galleria was a thing, Westfield would have never acquired Sunrise. They would have never acquired that mall. But the thing is, Roosevelt Field is a much bigger mall on Long Island, and Westfield Galleria. It wouldn't have worked. So the mall was instead built by Simon as the source, and Fortunoff was the anchor. But as we all know, Fortunoff, that's just a backyard store now. Oh, Tyson's Corner, Virginia, and then Tyson's Galleria. That's an interesting area. Hi, Garden State Elevators. How are you? Really? Yeah, I wasn't around in the '90s, sadly. Yeah, that and Hudson Bay and May Company, all three are to blame for Lord and Taylor's downfall. Because it was just another building with clothes. Nobody really cared. That's all, and that's why they went downhill. And not only that, they laid off employees before the pandemic started. So I'm expecting all remaining Lord and Taylors to close after the Super Bowl. So from what I've heard, and this is just speculation, that the last 20 Lord and Taylors will close, but will close at some point before or after Valentine's Day. Again, depending on the state, first of all, it's going to depend on the state of the pandemic, hospital capacity. And the reason why I say hospital capacity is because if hospital capacity is very, very short, they're going to have to close non-essential retailers. And guess what's going to happen to Lord and Taylor? They're going to close a lot earlier than expected. So again, because we don't know what hospital capacity is going to look like, and we also don't know what new restrictions on non-essential retail if they're reintroduced, at least in the Northeast. We don't know yet exactly what is going to happen to those Lord and Taylor stores. So it could be February 15th. It could be by the end of this month. Again, it all depends on the numbers and how much hospital capacity. I guess so. If there's people going in there, it was supposed to have a Nordstrom and a Neiman Marcus. That Westfield Long Island Galleria. Interesting. Will Gallery at White Plains close its doors once both anchors are gone? Gallery at White Plains is going to be in a very tough spot. It is in a very, very tough spot right now. Sears is one of the two major anchors, and then losing Macy's is not a good thing. So Gallery at White Plains is in an incredibly tough spot. I mean, that mall is in an even tougher spot than, say, Livingston. And Livingston still has a Macy's that is not closing. So I can't imagine them. I can't imagine them. I can't imagine them keeping it a mall. I think the entire mall on the inside is going to close. They're gonna knock it down and they're gonna start over on that mall in a couple of years, of course. Smith Haven sucks at this point, to be honest. Yeah, but they're trying to get around one in there, and I think they're going to try and get a better food court. But yeah, Smith Haven, there's really not that much. You have a Macy's, a Dick's, and a Barnes and Noble. So, but the Sears closed at the height of the pandemic. And what was the other one that closed? Um, oh yeah, JCPenney closed in 2019. Neiman Marcus should move to Freehold. I mean, should move to Freehold. Small problem, very small problem with that. Freehold Raceway Mall, and it's because of the geographical location. It is centered in the middle of the state. You have the Philadelphia metropolitan area to the south, and you have the New York City metropolitan area to the north. The thing is, you already have a Neiman Marcus store at the King of Prussia Mall and Neiman Marcus store at the mall at Short Hills. The distance between the two is far enough away where the stores will do very well. You cannot have a Neiman Marcus store that's not close enough to a metropolitan area. And the problem is it's not that close to New York City. The reason why Neiman Marcus works in Short Hills is because there's money, expensive housing, and direct link rail access to New York City. Same thing with, say, Paramus. Paramus is a big retail hub in Bergen County. There's a lot of malls across Route 17 and Route 4. You also have major bus routes that connect Westfield Garden State Plaza with the New York City's Port Authority. You have major roads that come from New York City. Really? Wow, I don't know why. Oh, I know why they did that. I know why they did that because they installed a new elevator in that part of the mall. That makes sense. That connects the dots then. So the Gallery at White Plains is the New York metropolitan area's worst shopping mall as of summer 2021. Yeah, it's probably the mall in our area right now that is good, probably in the roughest shape. Freehold is in pretty rough shape too, but Gallery White Plains is just they're definitely going to close that mall. I don't see that mall staying open for much longer after Macy's departs. Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh's worst mall by far is the Gallery at Pittsburgh Mills. Ever since Sears Grand and J.C. Penney, less people were going there. Well, that would make sense because then guess what? That's a ripple effect because the stores in the actual inside of the mall close as well, which means you have less consumers going there and the property itself becoming a lot more dead and not making revenue, and it's no longer an economic engine for the major town or city. I'm not surprised. My local Friday's closed and is now becoming a hotel. Is Freehold in better shape than Livingston Mall? Yeah, yeah. In a way, yes, because Freehold is a larger shopping structure. But the problem is you lost the Nordstrom. And losing a Nordstrom is troubling. It is very troubling, especially for that mall in that geographical location in New Jersey. It's very troubling to lose a Nordstrom at that mall. You can certainly lose a Sears, you can lose a Lord and Taylor, but when you lose a Nordstrom, that is a quite a financial impact on the town's one of the biggest economic engines in a town. So let's say in Freehold Township, the biggest economic engine was the Freehold Raceway Mall, and the second biggest being I Play America. So that's troubling. That is very troubling, especially for the size of that mall. That's very troubling to see Nordstrom closing. And Lord and Taylor too. That was the only one left in Monmouth County since Hudson Bay was more than eager to dump Monmouth. Yep, Sangertown Square, which is upstate, and White Plains. That's the only one that's closing. No, 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 no. Definitely not. The problem is Neiman Marcus, King of Prussia. You only really need one store in the Philadelphia market. And Cherry Hill, you got the Nordstrom already. Neiman Marcus would certainly not open up a store at Morristown Mall. There's just the market and the money and the revenue is not there for a Neiman Marcus. Plus, Neiman Marcus themselves right now, they're not doing too well financially. They're closing the Natick Mall. They closed the one in New York City at Hudson Yards. Yeah, Neiman Marcus is not doing financially well right now to open up stores. Sorry to say, John C. Oh yeah, movie theater closing. That's also not a good sign. Which one will win? Sure. Smith Haven. The reason, the choice of restaurants and the choice of stores. Yes, South Shore does have a J.C. Penney. Yes, it has a Dick's. But guess what? Smith Haven has a Dick's. They have a Macy's. They have a Dick's, Macy's, Apple Store, Barnes and Noble, the Cheesecake Factory, California Pizza Kitchen. So they have a lot more choices than say South Shore. There's a lot more choice of stores there. No, not yet, but it's supposed to be moving somewhere on 17 South down the road. Livingston should have went in the 90s. It's been on a downhill slope ever since. The only thing Livingston has going for itself is the food court. That is the only thing that mall has going for itself. Otherwise, the mall should not exist. Should not exist whatsoever. The only reason why is because Taubman did not like building food courts in their malls. That's the only reason why Livingston was able to survive. It was supposed to get one many years ago, but the mall isn't in a great area to have an Apple store. But it should really have one. Yes, I agree. Who is stricter about photography, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey or Simon Property Group? That's a tough one. I'm going to have to give that one to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The reason I say that is because they're going to be a lot more tougher than, say, Simon Property Group. And the reason for that is because of everything that's happened on 9/11. Yeah, and no camera use, of course. 41 Alabama ABC stores are closing. See, now, this is really weird. Alabama alcohol beverage control. That's really weird. I don't know why you would close liquor stores. And that's considered essential. He did, but then they closed more stores. See, Sears is done, guys, and this is something I want to talk about too. I may as well here. No, it's a movie theater would not be something for Short Hills. It's not the right mall for a movie theater. He did, but they kept closing stores. Look, Sears and Kmart are a joke. I'm sorry to say. They keep closing stores left and right. And they're going to make the announcement about Jersey City any day. I mean, it's inevitable at this point. And just let's get it over with Sears and Kmart. They're I'm just reading. So still here. Yeah, I think they're closing like 3. No, they won't do that. They do need more restaurants, but yeah, Eddie Lampert puts profits over people. Well, I don't know what's going to happen with Westfield South Shore. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay. Which company do you think is in danger in 2021? Vulnerable, Sears and Kmart off the bat. J.C. Penney, they're on shaky ground, and Macy's is on shaky ground. Um, Definitely Neiman Marcus. They're on some shaky ground, certainly. Nordstrom is doing relatively okay because of their rack business, but we'll see. We've got some bad news. What's the bad news? On Saturday, I went to Quaker Bridge Mall. Okay, what's the bad news? The elevator is closed at the Lord and Taylor at the Quaker Bridge Mall in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, except for the escalators. So the Vector pretty much crapped the bed. I'm not surprised, personally. Shows you how much the liquidators care about the elevators at this point. Lowe's Hotels has a contract with Otis, though that Lowe's Hotels manages all of the hotels in Universal, and that's why they all have Otis. Marriott, Hilton, Wyndham, Hyatt, and Radisson, it really depends on the person that's operating and builds the building and the cheapest bidder most of the time. How is Bloomingdale's doing? Well, they're part of Macy's, so yeah, they're in the same boat as Macy's. Their hand sanitizer sucks though. I advise no, don't even think about using their hand sanitizer. I've used it. It's the most disgusting thing you'll put on your hands. Stay away from their hand sanitizer. My recommendation, if you have to go in, do yourself a favor. If you're going into a department store or any type of store, bring your own bottle of hand sanitizer. The store's hand sanitizer is the most disgusting thing you can put on your hands. I get it why they have to do it, but it's the most disgusting thing you have to put on your hands. Well, I did see an article today about a Dillard's Clearance Center that's closing. Yeah, that's a bad sign for a mall, definitely, a Dillard's Clearance Center. Which mall is going to close first, Quaker Bridge Mall or Rockaway Town Square? Because of the geographical location, I would have to say Quaker Bridge over the other one. But I think they can. I think Rockaway, they're going to turn it around. They're going to turn it around. You'll see in the next couple of months they're going to turn it around quick. As for Quaker Bridge, they got to turn that around as quick as possible. Otherwise, Simon may as well just give up that property tomorrow. Although they can't keep the elevator out of service, and maybe it was out of service. Yeah, Brandon, was it just out of service, or they just entirely closed off that entire elevator lobby? Because that would certainly be depressing if they did. Sunrise or South Shore? We'll see what happens with Urban Edge with Sunrise, but for now, South Shore. Broadway or White Plains? Broadway Commons is in a better state than certainly the Gallery of White Plains. That's for sure. Still declining neighborhood, but the mall relatively is in relatively better shape than Gallery White Plains. Yeah, I haven't been yet to one with a broken elevator. Although the Sears, when I visited Gallery White Plains, the elevator near the mall entrance was broken, but the one of the elevators was still working in the store. Interesting. Yeah, Tom's River is the county seat, I believe. That's a common thing down in South Jersey. They have a lot of Otis ones. Dillard's on shaky ground? No, not really. I mean, they seem to be doing relatively well. Clearance Center, I get why they want to close. Maybe there's one. Maybe there's one Otis office nearby. Roosevelt Field or Westfield Garden State Plaza? Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. King of Prussia tops both of them. Mm, both are very significant in their own special ways. One time I was at J.C. Penney in 2018, then the elevator broke in Woodbridge Center. This was already part of a plan for Macy's that was announced back in 2020. Yeah, they seem to be a common thing in that area of Jersey. Yeah, so Roosevelt Field has anchors and a food court, while Westfield Garden State Plaza has a bigger movie theater. Both have just about the same anchors. I mean, yeah, one has a J.C. Penney and one doesn't. That's a key difference. But at one time they both did. J.C. Penney closed at Westfield Garden State Plaza in 2018, but J.C. Penney's still kicking at Roosevelt Field. Both have pretty big Macy's stores, but Westfield Garden State doesn't have a Bloomingdale's. Well, that's because of Riverside. But the mall itself, but Roosevelt Field has a Bloomingdale's and a Nordstrom, and in both malls have a Neiman Marcus and a Nordstrom. You can't really compare the two; they're very similar in ways. The key differences are the food courts, with Simon's food court being bigger than the Garden State Plaza or Westfield Garden State Plaza's food court, and the movie theaters are different. Westfield Garden State has a total of 16 movie theater screens, while the Roosevelt Field movie theater has 8. Both are both were done by the same construction company, but one smaller than the other one. Probably because their office is there. Interesting. The mall at Turtle Crossing or West Farms? They're both Taubman Mall designs. Or Tuttle Crossing, sorry. So they don't really have an upscale tenant. I'm gonna have to give this one to West Farms because West Farms still has a Nordstrom, they still have a Macy's, and they still have a J.C. Penney. So I'm gonna unfortunately have to give this one to what's it called? West Farms by default. Westfield Garden State Plaza, definitely. Green Acres is such a sketchy mall. What do you think about Galleria White Plains losing 2 anchors? Certainly troubling for the mall. It is very troubling. And I think the mall is going to be redeveloped into like a town center thing where they'll have high rise apartments or high rise office buildings. But Galleria White Plains is in trouble. It is in big trouble. Yeah, but Galleria, yeah, Westfield Garden State Plaza and Roosevelt Field's a tie. You can't compare those. But Westfield Garden State Plaza versus Green Acres, definitely Westfield Garden State Plaza takes the cake there. Green Acres is such a sketchy mall. It's the reason why I've never wanted to visit it. It's a waste of time, personally. It's really nothing special. Yes, that one's a tie. That one's definitely a tie. Yeah, but that's not an upscale tenant. Nordstrom is an upscale tenant. Definitely West Farms over Tuttle Crossing, Tallman wise, but both are going to be owned by, well, they're West Farms is going to be owned by Simon at some point. Hey, Sue Josh Happy, how are you? Do you think JCPenney's actually going to be kept around, or is Simon just using the company for rent? We don't know yet what their intentions are. It sounds like they want to save the tenant. Here's the thing. They don't want to lose JCPenney right now because Simon and Brookfield understand. They understand that Lord and Taylor went away, and they understand that they don't want to. They can't afford to lose JCPenney. Otherwise, a lot of their properties will be in trouble. We don't know what their intentions are yet, but it's a waiting game. So we'll just have to wait and see. They'll definitely renovate the mall. I guess the store did not need two elevators, and they only needed one, probably because of the demand. But both used to be Burlingtons from the 1960s or 1970s. Concords are just terrible pieces of garbage. They'll renovate that one. Macy's, yes, they're not closing any stores in New Jersey. Concords suck. Which mall is worse, White Plains or Nanuet? Nanuet's has somewhat of life, but when I was at Nanuet, when I was getting on my way, going from White Plains on my way back, it's depressing. Certainly depressing. Like not too many customers, which isn't a good thing. The movie theater was closed, and you know that inside in area of the mall where they had the escalators and the elevator closed off completely, completely closed off. Depressing. Woodbridge Center or Quaker Bridge Mall? Woodbridge Center. Then hands down, Woodbridge Center is the better mall. Quaker Bridge Mall, you're going to have a Macy's and a Sears. It's not too exciting. I mean, sorry, a Macy's and a J.C. Penney. Not really too exciting. Plus, now with the Montgomery Vector being broken, I'm glad I went. I'm glad I went to Quaker Bridge when I did. They're not going to change the name. It's a staple name, and right now they need to keep those jobs. Adventure Mall. Oh yeah, that's in Florida, I think. Oh, pretty good. Thanks for asking. Really, I think I don't know where the largest one is. State. Yeah, it was bought by the Sadia Group LLC, and they actually have a LinkedIn page. I looked at it. So they're going to make it an online retailer, pretty much. Pretty much what happened with Modell's and Pier One and all those other retailers that closed last year. The worst, definitely White Plains, but Livingston too. That's pretty bad too. Sawgrass. Oh yeah, that's a pretty good Simon Mall. What's going in the former in Lord and Taylor Tyson's Corner? They're probably going to put smaller stores in that spot. I can't imagine that being used as a department store ever again. Holland Mall in Fort Worth, Texas. Let's see. It has a Dillard's, a Forever 21, a Rue 21, and a Sears. No. If it has a Macy's, it's probably going to close next year. Probably not. Sorry to say. Walt Whitman, they're closing Macy's. JC Dollar. Yeah, that is kind of funny. Me too. I am beyond shocked they made it through last year. With all the stuff that went down during the pandemic, they're the lucky ones. They are the lucky ones. Like it amazes me that they were able to make it through 2020, especially with all the other retailers closing. Sears just makes it to 2021. To me, that is insane. But it's the real estate. It's just how valuable the real estate is. That's what it is, unfortunately. Yeah, Mullet Short is so much better. What do you think will happen to Walt Whitman? They're okay for now. They'll put a Savior food court in the former Lord and Taylor, and they'll do another upscale wing. Macy's restoring and remodeling 100 stores. Well, they're trying to make their stores better for the future. That's for sure. Of course. JCPenney loved using innovation. They loved it in the early 2000s. That I don't know. I don't know what's up Eddie's sleeve on that one for Kmart and Guam. That's interesting that it's there. It's a nice, yeah. He's not, no, he's still part of the company. There's no way they would have, if they oust Eddie, it's the end for Sears. Yeah, no, you cannot oust Eddie. Eddie Lampert's the reason for Sears still being around. Nobody can oust Eddie. Here, I'll read you guys something. I think this is really good. I should definitely read this for you guys. I just have to. Oh no, I didn't want to do that. Okay, let's go. Let's get the link opened. Because oh man, someone posted something incredible on the forum. Ooh, I actually like this response. I really like this response. Another notification. I'm not surprised. No, Target was an essential retailer. White Plains, that closed, I think, 2 years ago. Walmart. No, wouldn't be good for the area. They'll probably do a Whole Foods there. Anyways, this is on the Sears layoffs website. This is a pretty good thing. I want to read everybody. Let's go ahead and there we go. Perfect. Crazy Eddie's business model. The company has certainly suffered in a way that many other brick and mortar outlets have faced of challenging from discounters such as Walmart and from online retailers like Amazon. But the consensus among the business and press and dozens of very bitter former executives is overriding cause of Sears malaise. It is the disastrous decision by Eddie Lampert to this segregate. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. The company difference division into competing units to create an internal market. Lampert radically restructured operations, splitting the company into 30 and later 40 different units that were to compete against each other instead of incorporating as in a normal firm. Divisions of such as apparel, tools, appliances, human resources, IT, and brand were now in essence to operate as automotive business, each of their own president, board of directors, chief marketing officer, and statement of profit or loss. And so, if the apparel division wanted to use the services of IT or human resources, they would have to sign contracts with them, or alternatively, to use outside contractors if it would improve the financial performance of the unit, regardless of whether it would improve performance of the company as a whole. Executives would attach screen protectors to their laptops at meetings to prevent their colleagues from finding out what they are up to. Units were scapped over the floor and shelf spaces for their products. Screaming matches between the chief marketing officer and different divisions were common at meetings. Indeed, to agree on the content of the crucial weekly calendar, advertising specials, they would fight over key positioning, aiming to optimize their own units of profits at another's unit expense. As profits collapsed, divisions grew increasingly vicious toward each other, scrapping over what cash reverses remained. Squeezing profits still further was duplication in labor. particularly with what increasingly top-heavy repetition of executive function by now competing units, which no longer had interest in sharing costs for shared operations. Ultimately, the different units decided to sharply take care of their own profits. The company as a whole demanded. One former executive described a culture of wearing tribes and elimination of corporation and collaboration. One business press described Lamford's regime as running Sears like the Colosseum. Thus, many of who abandoned the ship describe the here-brained free market shenanigans of the man they call Crazy Eddie as a failed experiment for one of the reasons of, above all else, the model Kalis Corporation. That guy pretty much summed it up about Sears. That guy summed it up. That guy summed it up. He summed it up so freaking well. And he's right. He's absolutely right. Screaming matches, squeezing profits. That's not a way to run a company. That is not a way to run a company. That's not a way to run a company. That's not a way to treat your employees. And this is reading at the corporate level. Imagine what the average person working at those stores would feel like after seeing that online. They would quit their job right on the spot. They would quit their job at Sears or Kmart right on the spot, no questions asked. Eddie ruined his reputation. I don't think anybody's going to want to do business with him after Sears goes up. Yeah, no one will want to do business with him. He's Crazy Eddie. No, there's no food court at Woodbridge Center. He really is Crazy Eddie. That's just it. He's a crazy individual. But anyways, so that's that. So I think at this point, guys, we're going to go ahead and end the live stream. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and that's it. We'll see you guys next time.